Okay, so today we're gonna look at the Chapter 9 review, and I'm gonna go through a couple of examples with you on this. Starting with the first ones, you're going to be finding the axis symmetry, the vertex, and the y-intercept. So these types of questions are going to be the exact kind that are on your test tomorrow. So looking at this, you've got A is going to be 1, B is 2, and C is 5. To find the axis of symmetry, we're going to use our x equals negative b over 2a. And when I plug my numbers in, I'm going to have negative 2 over 2 times 1. And when I simplify that, negative 2 over 2 is going to equal negative 1. X equals negative 1 is going to be our axis of symmetry. Then we're going to take our number, negative 1, and we're going to plug that into our equation to figure out the other part of my vertex. So the first part of my vertex is that negative 1. The second number I'm going to get by plugging in negative 1. So I'm going to have y equals negative 1 squared plus 2 times negative 1 plus 5. So 1 minus 2 plus 5, that's going to simplify to negative 1 plus 5, which is going to be 4. That's going to be the second part of my vertex. And then the y-intercept is always going to come from the value of c, which is in this case 5. So our y-intercept is going to be 5. Okay. I will not be giving you this formula here on the test. Okay, so you need to make sure that you know negative b over 2a for axis symmetry. You're welcome to work out these other examples. They are all posted on Canvas. Okay. The next thing that we are going to look at is deciding if the function opens up or down, how to find the min or max, vertex, and domain and range. So on this one, when you're deciding if it opens up or down, you're looking at the value of a, which in this case is 1. If a is positive, our parabola looks like this, and it's opening up. If it's a negative, it is opening down, and it would be upside down. So on this one, when you are looking at if it's a min or a max, you're trying to figure out where the turning point is, which in this case is at the bottom of the parabola. That is the lowest value that you can get, or what we call a minimum. Now, to figure out the vertex, we do still have to use that axis of symmetry. So even though it doesn't say to use axis of symmetry, that will tell us the first point of my vertex. So we're going to have negative of negative 4 over 2 times 1. So positive 4 over 2 is going to be 2. That's the first part of my vertex. For the second part, I'm going to plug this in just like I did on the last one to figure out the y value. So I'm going to have 2 squared minus 4 times 2 plus 4. That's going to be 4 minus 8 plus 4, which is going to give me 0. Now, when you do the domain, you shouldn't ever mess up the domain. It's always the same thing every time. It's all real numbers. Okay. And for the range, you are comparing your y value to the y value that you found up here in your vertex. Okay. So for the range, you're comparing your y values to 0. Now, if your parabola is opening up, okay, like it is right here, okay, if your parabola is opening up, then that means that all of your values are going to be bigger than this vertex point down here at the bottom. So that means that you're going to have greater than or equal to. Okay, again, because our parabola looks like this. If it's opening down, it's going to be less than or equal to. For the next part, this is graphing the functions. Y equals x squared minus x minus 6. You're still going to find all of those same things, axis, vertex, and y-intercept, and then put those on the graph. You're also welcome to make an xy table where you choose values for x and plug them in to see what you get for y. So when you are working this one out, I'm going to start with negative b over 2a. So negative of negative 1 over 2 times 1. So that's actually going to simplify to be 1/2. If I put that on my graph, it's somewhere right here. Now, when I plug in 1/2, that's going to tell me the other part of my vertex. So 1/2 squared minus 1/2 minus 6. So 1/4 minus 1/2 minus 6 is going to be negative 6.25. So the point 1/2 and negative 6.25 or 6 1/4 is going to be my vertex. So when I look where that is on my graph, that's going to give me a point that's right about here. Then I'm going to look for my y-intercept. My y-intercept is negative 6, which is just above that, very close together here. And then I can reflect that to the other side. Okay, once I've done that, I can graph my parabola. It's opening up. Make sure it's opening up, and it's supposed to be because it's positive. That's how your graph works. So again, you can do it that way, or you're welcome to make the XY chart where you pick some numbers like these, plug all of those numbers in up here, and figure out what you get for Y. Now, there will be a section on the test where you have to solve by graphing, which means after you solve it, you're going to tell me what x is actually equal to or where it crosses the x-axis. So in this one, you have x squared plus 4 equals 0. If you're missing any terms, like here you are missing the x, you can fill that in with a 0. That means that your b value is going to be 0. So when I go find my axis of symmetry, I have negative b or negative 0 over 2 times a or 1. That's just going to be 0 over 2, which is going to be 0. That means that our y-axis is also our axis of symmetry. If I plug that 0 in, I would have 0 squared plus 4. That would be just 4. So my vertex is 0, 4, and I can put that on my graph. That's going to be right here. Now, the problem with this one is that when you go to graph the y-intercept, it's already this point. So I can't graph it and reflect it to the other side. So we're going to make a one-number table here. We're going to pick any value that we want for x. I'm going to pick 1. And we're going to plug it into our equation right here and see what we get for y. So I would have 1 squared plus 4, or 1 plus 4, that's going to be 5. This point right here, 1, 5, is on our parabola. That's right here. And that's the point that I can reflect to the other side. And it's going to look something like that. Now, when you're trying to tell me what the solutions are, you're telling me where does it cross the x-axis right here. Okay. Now, it's never going to cross the x-axis because it's up here above. So this is going to be an example of one that's no solution. So I do still need to see the graph. To get to the answer, you can't just put no solution. Showing the graph is part of the problem there. Okay. So there's a couple examples that you can do like that. And then down at the bottom on the next part, it's going to be describing the graph. So stretch, compress, reflect, up and down, left and right. So I'm going to do a couple on here. If you have something that's not in standard form, let's reorder that first. So make it x squared minus 10. Okay, anything that's not x squared, okay, the parent function is x squared. Anything that's not x squared, like this minus 10, is going to change our graph. Now, if it's a number that is not in parentheses with our x, it comes after our x squared, that is going to be up or down. If it's negative, that is going to go down, and it's going to go down 10 units. Now, for number 14, you have 3 things happening. Okay, you have a negative, you have a minus 4, and a minus 1. Now, if you're looking at the negative, that's what makes our graph open down. That's going to be our reflection. The number inside the parentheses is left or right. So this is the one that looks like the opposite of what it would be. If it looks like negative 4, it's actually positive 4. So you're going to send this to the right 4 places. We're not squaring that 4. It just stays as a 4. And then the minus 1 on the end is going to be up or down. If it's negative, that's going to go down 1. Same thing on number 15. You have several things happening here. Here's the x right here, and then here's the squared. Anything else, like negative and 2 and positive 3 and positive 6, all of those things are going to be something that changes our graph. So all 4 of those need something written down. So I've got a reflection for the negative. The 2, as long as it's not between 0 and 1, that is stretched. Or that makes it really narrow. The plus 3, it looks like plus, but remember it's actually the opposite of that. So we're going to go left 3 places. And then our plus 6 is up 6 on the back. Okay. So for the stretch and compress, if this is a fraction, like 1/2, like what you might see on the number 17, this right here, that is a compression. Okay. If it's a 2, like this one here, not between 0 and 1, that is going to be stretched. Okay. The last part here is quadratic formula. We've been doing this for a while, but a couple of reminders about this. If it's not in standard form, like this one here, we're going to move this to the other side and make it 4x squared plus 4x minus 15 equals 0. And then we're going to plug those in for A, B, and C. Okay, so here's the formula. I am going to give you this formula on the test so that you don't have to worry about memorizing that. If you give me A, B, and C is 4, 4, and negative 15, I'm going to have x equals negative 4 plus or minus. Under the square root, I have 4 squared minus 4, 4, and negative 15. On the bottom, it's 2a, so 2 times 4, lots of 4's in this one. And then we're going to simplify. So remember that we need to simplify what's under the square root, this right here, before we ever type a square root in our calculator. So we've got negative 4 plus or minus, and then under the square root, 4 squared is 16. Minus 4 times 15, that's going to be 240. And then on the bottom would be 8. If I add together 16 and 240, that's going to be 256. Okay? So what I have here is the square root of 256, which is actually just 16. So I'm going to bring this up to the top. Negative 4 plus or minus 16 over 8. Now, when you do negative 4 plus 16, that's going to give you 12. And if you take 12 divided by 8, that's going to give you 1.5. That's one of your answers. And then when I do negative 4 minus 16, that's negative 20. And if I divide that by 8, that's going to give me negative 2.5. So tests will be tomorrow. There will be no notes being used on the test tomorrow. And if you would like to work more on this review, you can find it on Canvas. It's not for a grade, but you can definitely find it there so that you can get some more practice. If you have the bonus assignment, you can turn that in to the box on my desk.